Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. So this week I'm getting around to seeing some movies that have been out for a little while in the theaters. They've actually been out of the theater for a little bit, but I went over to the Dollar Theater today and they just happened to be playing, so I figured what the hell, I'll check them out. They were on my list of things to watch this year that I ended up missing. Today's mostly because it was in and out of the theater within like a week. And by the time I went to see it, it was already gone. So now it's over at the Dollar Theater, which probably means it's out on DVD or coming out on DVD pretty soon. So I decided what the hell, I'll see it, because it's still technically in theaters. And that was Max Steel. So I'm going to start by saying I didn't really watch the Max Steel series. I think they actually did 2 series, if I remember that right. They had 1 and then they redid it later on. Never really watched those, so I'm not really sure what the full story is. So I'm kind of going into this movie blindly. But my overall take on this movie, I feel it kind of falls into that trap of once something is established as a series and then they try and turn it into a movie, they try and cram way too much into the would-be origin story for the movie instead of just kind of developing a way where it can flow fluidly on its own. It's kind of like the same problem that The Last Airbender ran into, where they tried to cram the entire first season into 1 2-hour movie. And when you consider a season is like 26-ish episodes, half hour each, that's several hours that we establish this opening narration of the first season in a television series. And then to try and pack all that down into 90 minutes just doesn't exactly work, and I feel that's kind of what they ran into here. The other downfall to this movie that I saw is he just doesn't even really become Max Steel until the last 12 minutes of the movie. It sort of shows him learning how to harness his abilities and stuff, and he suits up a couple times, but it's only there for a second and then it's gone. He doesn't fully properly armor up and be Max Steel until the last 10 minutes of the movie when he's in the epic boss battle and all that. And I just feel that in a movie called Max Steel, there could have been a little bit more Max Steel. You got Spider-Man. You don't spend 85 minutes building up Peter Parker developing these powers and then just have him finally put on the suit at the last 5 minutes of the movie. Even back in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, it was only the first 10, 20 minutes where he was learning his powers and had the cheap suit and then went to the full-on suit. And then he was Spider-Man throughout the rest of the movie. Yes, we kept delving back into Peter Parker and his home life, but we also saw a lot of Spider-Man in that movie. And with Max Steel here, he doesn't have any confrontation throughout the movie to build up to the epic climax that they were going for. Overall, what happens in the movie is Max's father was, I guess, a scientist or something in this small town, and his father died during it was either a lab accident or a freak storm. They're not sure which actually happened. So then Max's mother moved them around a lot from place to place, so Max is one of those kind of military brats almost, but he's not of military family. So it's kind of he jumps from place to place and can't really establish an identity or friends or anything because he'll be moving again soon. And at some point, his mother decides, okay, let's move back to our old house where we used to live, I guess because she still owns the house. And Max is kind of looking at it the same way, yeah, we'll be in and out of here within a year or whatever, so he's not really trying to go out of his way to make friends or anything. And that's when he starts to develop these powers. At first, he's just kind of noticing, he keeps shorting out electrical equipment, so he's what is going on here? It's a little weird. And then as it progresses, he's actually creating a form of liquid energy that flows out of his hands that they say is tachyon energy, I believe. So then, he's building up more and more of this towards, and at first he can kind of control it, he can, use it to, turn on a TV or short out someone's phone or something like that, which he kind of does by mistake, but he's kind of learning to control it. And then it starts to get to a point where it's too powerful and he can't control it anymore. And that's when the character of Steel shows up, who I guess had been hibernating for 16 years. But now that Max has all this energy flowing through him, Steel shows up, and what Steel is his species of alien is like a parasite, and they feed off tachyon energy for someone like Max who builds up all this tachyon energy, and once it's to the point where he can't control it, he's on the verge of technically exploding, like he would have physically exploded. The parasite of Steel latches onto him and basically sucks down all the excess tachyon energy so he doesn't explode. And then they kind of learn to work like a symbiotic relationship where they work together, and Steel helps him keep his tachyon surges under control, while at the same time helping him develop his skills, I guess, and harness his powers to use them better. So basically, Steel kind of handles the workload of everything, and all he gets out of it is like a free meal. Is what it basically sounds like, because Max really doesn't offer anything back to this symbiotic relationship other than, yeah, here, you can eat off my body. So then Steel is like, if we can synchronize our thoughts and everything, get on the same page with like fighting strategies and things, we can actually become, more powerful. And he kind of shows him like, and he attaches to him real quick, and they suit up for like a brief second, and then the suit's gone. And Max is like, what was that? And he's like, that's what happens when we work together. He goes, well, why did it go away? He goes, because we weren't in sync. And that's kind of the rest of this movie, is it plays out with them trying to sync up better, but every time they go into the suit, they're only in it for like a second, and then they're like differing. Like one wants to go one way, one wants to go the other, and suddenly they're out of the suit. But by the end, they finally decide to start working together. The suit comes on. There's the big bad that's revealed kind of out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, this guy is the bad guy, and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, they explain his backstory through a monologue at the end, and just like that whole reveal is kind of like, well, obviously it was going to be him, but there was really no setup for it. It's like they tried to shoehorn in a lot of setup in the last 10 minutes, and it just, I don't know, kind of fell flat with me. Again, where you have a television series, you can kind of relay that backstory. You can make that slight reveal at the end of like the first or second episode, and then slowly build that family friend might not be what he seems until the final reveal that he's not what he seems and he's actually the big bad all along comes in like at the end of the first season or towards the start of the second season. Here they're just kind of, oh yeah, by the way, here's all this stuff in the last 10 minutes. Like I said, I've never watched the series, but I kind of figured that would be how it went because it was a fairly popular series. But overall, I just feel that this suffered from that affliction of they try and cram like an entire series into 90 minutes, basically the equivalent of 3 episodes, for the course of like a 4-season, 26 episodes per season, half-hour per episode story arc. They try and cram it into basically the equivalent of 3 episodes, and that just doesn't work. You have to restructure it all. And that's what a lot of these people seem to fail at. That's why TV shows that are based off of movies tend to do better, because you've had the movie adaptation and now you're expanding that universe through the series, where with going the opposite way, you run into these problems. So I can understand why it's been labeled a box office flop or a commercial failure, whatever terminology you want to use, but it had potential to it. It needed to not be what it was. I don't really know how else to say it other than that. So what would I give as far as a star rating? 1.5, I guess. I really hate to put it that low, but I can't justify giving it a 2. At the same time, like I said, there was a little bit of potential there. Had it had a more competent story and had the film play out a lot better, there was potential there. So I don't want to knock it all the way down to a 1 or a 0. So I'm going to go with a 1.5 on this one. So there you have it. That's my review of Max Steel. Sorry it's late, but like I said, it was in and out of the theater within a week in the main theater. So by the time I was like, okay, I'm going to go see Max Steel today, it was already gone. And now it's at the Dollar Theater, so what the hell, I'll play catch-up. Got a couple more catch-ups for this month. I got a few more movies I want to try to fit in by the end of December so I can have as many things available for my end of the year list as possible. I think I have most of that mapped out. I kind of went through everything that I saw already and kind of planned out what's going to be on what list. So unless something really dramatic happens in the next few movies that I want to see that heavily changes one of those things, I think that list is kind of almost set into place, but we do still have a couple big movies coming out. We still got Rogue One, Assassin's Creed, and a couple others that I want to try and squeeze in before the end of the year, finances permitting. If they're not, then I guess the list is kind of set the way it is. So that is it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. The links are in the description, and until next time, we'll see you after the credits.